Welcome, everyone, to the One More Game podcast. I'm one of your co-hosts, Jeremy Culver, a.k.a. Darcy, and with me is the California Thirst Quencher, Pete Leja. Pete, how you doing, man?
Man, it is Super Bowl Sunday.
Woo-hoo.
I'm all prepped. I'm all ready to go. I got my Joliet Raiders jersey they used to wear when I was a kid. Shout out to the Joliet Raiders. I used to play for them. And youth tackle football, blew up my brain and all that stuff.
Heck
Really
yeah.
fun. It was actually a lot of fun. I also probably was the best shape I've ever been in my life, working out for football and all that.
Mm-hmm.
So, and Super Bowl Sunday, really happy. Hopefully the game is pretty good. Gonna have some people over, gonna hang out. But before all that, we got to talk about some kick-ass video games.
Yes, that is right. And I'm sure, of course, a lot of people are going to be enjoying the Super Bowl tonight, whether you're enjoying the game itself, whether you're enjoying the commercials, whether you're enjoying just the food that you're going to have, because I know that everybody has
halftime show. If you're
the halftime show, Rihanna performing here, halftime. I know my wife is super excited to see that go down. Nice. For myself, of course, we've made mention of this leading up to this. You and I, neither of our teams are in the Super Bowl, so we don't really have a something to fight for in this game. But
I am each other. You want to pick separate teams?
We could do that. We could. I'm really looking forward to the food that we're gonna have tonight. We ordered.
Nice.
I know for some of those that may not have been around the podcast know this, but I'm vegan, and there's a really great vegan, they call themselves the herbivorous butcher, so they're like vegan meats type of thing. Well, they also have a sub store called Irby's Fried Chicken, and their chicken wings are delicious, and we ordered a platter tonight, and I cannot wait to dive into those things because I mauled them last year and I know I'm gonna maul them again this year. But we're gonna ask real quick, Pete, because we've done it every episode leading into the Super Bowl. I gotta ask you, who do you got in the Super Bowl?
So I think the Eagles are the better team, and I think they should be favored, but I'm gonna rock with Michael Jordan. I'm rocking with Patrick Mahomes and the Kansas City Chiefs. I'm hoping they're gonna win the game, thinking they're gonna win the game. Just Mahomes does things with the football. The only comparison I could make is things Michael Jordan did with the basketball, and it matters a lot less in a football field because there's a lot more people that are involved in the game as opposed to basketball. So I wouldn't be surprised if the Eagles win, but I'm gonna go with Mahomes boy.
All right. I know that I had made mention last week that I was going Chiefs, but just because you talked about throwing a fight out there, I'm going to go with the Eagles. So I want my boy Robert Quinn to get his Super Bowl ring, former Chicago Bear who was just traded midseason. I'm going to be at least happy if he gets a ring. So we're going Eagles. Oh, yeah. Just so I can hopefully rub it in the face of you next week when we go, ha-ha. I won. You lost.
You said Michael Jordan.
Michael Jordan's never lost to finals.
This whole week's been a super long one. We had the Kevin Durant trade in NBA, and shout out to LeBron James passing Kareem Abdul-Jabbar for most points in the regular season. He passed total points in regular season and postseason, I think, last year. But this is like the quote unquote big one, regular season points. That's a hell of a career, man. His career is going to be one of the all-time greats, that's for sure. So shout out to LeBron James for that one too.
Oh, yeah. Entering the league straight out of high school and playing at a high level from basically the onset to this point is quite the accomplishment. Even though I will always say Michael Jordan is better, you do have to give props to LeBron James because what he does and what he has done, of course, is not something that you expect to see very often, with how things go. So,
especially when he came in. I know we're going to get going. Especially when he came in and just was basically at age 15 was you have to be a first ballot Hall of Famer, the way we're talking about you. Anything less is a failure, and he exceeded basically all expectations about that.
Yeah.
Is really rather impressive. But
Yeah.
that's another podcast topic.
That is another podcast topic, but we're not here to talk about sports, even though Pete and I love talking about sports. We're here to talk about video games, so let's get into the podcast. So everyone, welcome to the One More Game podcast. If this is the first time to your podcast, welcome to this. This is a podcast that is centered around making sure you're informed about all the video game news happening around the world, whether it is Xbox, Nintendo, PlayStation, or PC. If there's news that you need to know about, we'll make sure that you know about it. When you're listening to this on your podcast service, make sure you hit the subscribe button or the follow button, depending on what your service offers. And if your podcast service allows reviews, please leave a 5-star review and tell everyone why you love the One More Game podcast, because we really enjoy bringing this to you each and every week. If you'd like to be part of the show by asking a question or suggesting a topic for discussion, head on over to pressstartnews.net/one more game and fill out that submission form, and your submission could be used on the next episode. Or you could drop it off in chat live while we're recording this over on youtube.com/pressstart28. Or I guess I should add this, since YouTube did change how they do their URLs. youtube.com/@pressstart28 is the other way to get over here. And you can, of course, drop it off in the chat and we'll reference it as they come up throughout the show. But if this is your first time to the podcast, welcome to the podcast. I hope you enjoy your listen and I hope you enjoy your stay. But if you are returning, you already know what it is. We start off every single podcast talking about what we've been playing lately. So, Pete, what have you been playing lately?
Sorry, I'm trying to fuddle with the volume control while I have our record up, but I don't want to go through bleeding through. Anyway, so the game I've been playing, is I finally got on the Persona bandwagon and started playing Persona 4. I guess I think the title is Shin Megami Tensei Persona 4. In this case, Golden. It's like the updated, remastered, redone version, retooled. I think they added some stuff to it as well. I've been mostly liking it. And I think even the parts that I'm not the hugest fan of, I've started warming up to. It's one of those games where, if you are a fan of video games in general, whether you like the game or not, you start playing it and you could tell, like, okay, I totally get why people like this game, why it's highly regarded, why a lot of people. I mean, I've said that about a lot of games, but this is definitely one of the ones where you just turn it on and you start playing. It's like, okay, yeah, I get it. Really enjoyed a lot of the stuff. The music is awesome. Really sets the tone in a lot of the scenes that you go through. Really enjoy the JRPG combat. It's really intriguing. The things that I don't really care for about it, it's a JRPG, but it's also a visual novel game. And the visual novel stuff where you're interacting with the main characters, I've enjoyed. The ones for the side characters, like so to set the table, you're basically a teenager. You move to this new town because your parents are out of the country in Japan to work overseas, which is the generic anime term to write out the parents so you don't have to actually put them in the discussion and the kids are living alone. I don't know how common that is in actual Japan. I'm sure it happens, but it seems to happen all the time in anime. So you move to the countryside to be with your uncle and his daughter. So your cousin. You start going to school, and a lot of the visual novel elements happen at the school itself. So you can join some clubs, the sporting, one sport club and one like cultural club.
Yep.
So you can either join like the basketball or soccer team. You can join the band and I think drama club, which I should know,
I think that's about right.
I did not join the band one. I joined the other one, so I should probably know that one. So and stuff like that, and you interact with characters who I wouldn't say have an impact on the story, but they are relevant to the gameplay itself. They do power up some of the things called persona that you get to use to actually like use in combat, and the persona have extra abilities. They call it SP. I don't know what it stands for, but it's basically like your magic points. And then some of the abilities also take your hit points too. I believe it's usually like spell-like abilities or like the SP for the persona, and then the HP are done for like physical attacks. And that aspect is really intriguing. But like also, it's kind of one of those things where you get so much of a thing that's like I don't know what to do. And I'm not really the biggest fan. I guess like there's definitely a contingent of people that like to experiment because you get to like fuse some of the persona to like make them more powerful and stuff like that. But like I don't know exactly. I guess the short answer is I don't exactly know like what I'm supposed to be doing with that. If it's relevant to the game, do I have to do it to like advance? Does it matter? Some of that stuff. It's a little bit like they say like it powers your stuff up, but like can I get through the main storyline without doing that kind of thing, you know? And it's like I don't know if you can or not. And you're kind of like saying like you probably can't. I don't know. I can't tell.
Yeah, I was like,
So
do you want
I'm
me
not,
to do you want me to cut in here and help?
I don't really care. I've never really been a big like whatever about spoilers. I never really.
Oh, it's not necessarily spoilers. It was more so, did you want me to cut in and explain, or do you want me to just let you keep going?
We can do it off camera because that's probably too long. I'm already kind of long-winded on this one as it is. So long story short, some of the stuff that's kind of like less, kind of like I'm less knowledgeable about. And I mean, I could always just research this stuff, but I don't feel like you should have to research that kind of thing for video games. And maybe, I guess it is encouraging you to just experiment with some of the stuff, but it doesn't feel like they explain it a whole lot other than like, hey, do this thing and it'll benefit your character in combat. And it's like, okay, but there's no like tutorial or anything like that. They're no like, oh, hey, well, if you do this thing and combine X with Y, you get Z or anything like that. And I think that one was kind of off-putting, along with like the other stuff where, like I was saying, with the visual level elements with like characters that are like relevant to the gameplay, but not necessarily the story is kind of like, but I'm warming up to it more the more I play it. I don't know how much more I'm going to play of it because I want to play other games to give you guys new games every week. So I don't. I have to probably end up going back to it. It's also, I know it's a long game.
It's a very long one.
So, but the main story is phenomenal. The gameplay I've really enjoyed. The main cast of characters, especially Teddy, is one that's like kind of comedic, kind of like the mascot of the group. And then like just in general, the banter has been really interesting to me. So overall, I'd recommend it for people that like JRPGs or visual novels. And yeah, obviously you can tell by playing it why it's so popular.
Yeah, so just so you're aware, SP stands for spirit points, just so that everyone understands. But yes, like you said, it's like it's your magic, use
mind
things.
Points, magic points.
I'm curious if what you've done in the game so far, Pete. So like roughly speaking, do you know how
Yukiko? That's the part I got for.
Okay, so you're in there a little bit of a ways in that
I think it's
point.
like 5 hours, but I also like get sidetracked sometimes by like looking at other stuff and then jumping back. But I think the gameplay my save point was like 5 hours at this point.
And then one of the things that I'm curious also, and this is to inform the listeners as well if they haven't dove into it, are you allowing the computer to control your other party members, or are you doing you act for them?
I've been acting for them.
Okay. So that is a factor, of course, that people can choose to do. So in old Persona, so like Persona 3, for instance, and I think Persona 3 Portable, which is the remaster one that they did bring over, I think you can, if I remember correctly, you can switch it to the tactics of you giving commands for your party members. However, in the old Persona 3, your other party members acted on their own, and you had to kind of like work with them, which was kind of a cool concept. And you can do that again in Persona 4 if you chose to do so.
For sure. Like I had to change it, which I didn't even know I could do until I saw like there was one selection that was like command them directly. I'm like, oh. Let's do that.
Yeah. So yeah, that's one of the things. The other things to pass along real quick, because I've played Persona 4. I've never beaten it, but I have played Persona 4 Golden, and is that basically the confidant system is what they're called. It is the as you called it, the visual novel, the slice of life simulator is what they refer to it as. It's important for boosting your characters and their combat and things of that nature. And I would say, to make it brief, I I don't know if you can actually get through the game without having done any of those things, because it plays such an important component for the battles aspect that I think you would like it. I mean, it would be like basically going like, I'm gonna beat this on like hard mode or on challenge mode, is like, you know, if you did it without
I
doing it.
I beat it with all my characters at level 1 or whatever.
Yeah.
I just actually, that comic just popped up in my Facebook memories recently. I was thinking about resharing it.
Yeah.
Like, why?
Yeah. So that's things.
So like I said, like the ones that interact with like Yosuke and Chie and Yukiko, like the events that interact with them, I was like, those are interesting to me. It's when you're like, oh, random girl, you're interacting with, oh, random girl in the drama club, or, you know, the soccer and basketball team captains. It's like, okay, is this relevant? Does this matter? Outside of like boosting your characters like we're talking about, because they fought, for those who don't know, I don't think I said it, but they do like a lot of the characters represent some sort of arcana from tarot cards. So like even the ones that are like that, they also represent, so they do have a purpose of the gameplay. It's just like I said, it's just like I kind of want to just get to the story, I guess, is my point, and I don't really want to necessarily spend time interacting with characters who are just like, hey, come to basketball practice. Okay, boss. And then you go to basketball practice and that thing a little speeds through. I think that's my problem. But like I said, I've been warming up to it, and those characters have been like enjoyable as well by themselves. So
yeah, it's one of those things that definitely think, like you're saying, it's kind of what is your cup of tea? Because while I would say, like, do they impact the story directly? Not really, but do they flesh out the world and make you like understand other aspects? Yes, like that's what it does, you know, type of thing. Yep. So, you know, again, it's kind of whatever is your cup of tea. So we'll talk more about this off the podcast. But for myself, just want to make mention of it real quick again. I've been playing more Teppen, so I'm still enjoying Teppen. Did you ever end up downloading it?
I actually had it set up to download. I was trying to download it before we ended our last podcast, and I was not able to be sneaky enough, and then I forgot about it, so I got to download it again.
Way to go.
But I will. I'll do it after the podcast. So.
Sounds good. So yeah, been playing more of that. But no, the game that I've been playing this week, and I only am holding this up for our video versions because it's right here next to me, is I've been playing Final Fantasy X2. So this is the strategy guide for X and X2 Remaster. I have had this urge for a couple of weeks now to play it. I never beat 10-2. Quick story on it. I bought it the day it came out back when I think it came out in 2004. So I was like 12 years old, and I played it for about like 4 hours, and then never played it anymore because I got stuck and I did not know what to do. And so I just like abandoned the game. And so I've always wanted to go back and play it and experience the story. And so I've had this urge for the last couple of weeks to play it. Finally decided to do so. And I'm enjoying it just like I was back when I was 12 playing it. It uses goes back to the true ATB system, system that's basically been introduced since I think Final Fantasy III was the first one that used the true ATB system. But my only gripe that I have at the moment so far, I'm about 5-6 hours in. However, I will say a lot of that time was spent in the Fiend arena, which is a different like side component that I'm not gonna go down that rabbit hole. My only complaint is this ATB system feels so fast. And so my gripe that I have with it is like in Final Fantasy VII, which uses the ATB system, Final Fantasy IX, which uses it, it felt like you have like a little bit of time to kind of think through what you want to do. Like, okay, I want to like use this character and I want to, use this spell and attack this thing. And you have a little bit of time to do it. In Final Fantasy X-2, it feels like you don't. Like, you literally have to, like, as soon as that thing triggers, it's almost like a speed rush of, like, I gotta quickly click down to this spell, click this, click that, hurry up and click my enemy to make it go off. Because what happens in this game, more so than, like, any other Final Fantasies, in my opinion, is, like, if you get hit while you're, like, about to cast a spell, it will stun and delay you for a while. and then it like, even if it's fully charged and it's like the spell should go out like right after I get hit, and I'm not even kidding, they'll be like sitting there like channeling the spell, they'll get hit and they're like, ugh, and then they're like, all right, let me go back to channeling the spell. And if like the enemy keeps hitting that same character, it's like your spell will not come out. And it's so frustrating at times because I'm like, we'll be staring at the screen like, hurry up, do the spell. And of course, you know, there's times where I die because I got hit too often that the spell never came out. So that's my only complaint right now. But like, that's something I think that, of course, as I play it more, I will, you know, find workarounds for it. And I'm sure like using a spell like Provoke might help in situations like that. Again, I'm still early in the game, technically speaking. I'm still also technically speaking, even though like how Final Fantasy X-2 uses its chapters, it's different. But I'm still in chapter 1, to give an example. So like there's that component to it as well, but I'm enjoying it. I'm gonna likely keep playing it and having a blast with it. So we'll likely have some more updates on that over the coming weeks. But yeah, I'm enjoying Final Fantasy X-2, and I recommend people to check it out. It is on PlayStation Plus. If you have PlayStation Plus, what is it? PlayStation Plus Extra, I think, is the one where you get the streaming component of it. It's on that, and I think last I knew it was still on Xbox Game Pass. I know they've removed some of the Final Fantasy games from there, but I'm not 100% sure. But yeah.
Check right now. So I'm still waiting for our Blitzball game to be made, because that's honestly the best part of Final Fantasy X and Final Fantasy X universe. It does not look like Final Fantasy is available. It looks like the only one that's available right now is Lightning Returns.
Okay.
That's
because I know they had like a streak where like they put a bunch of Final Fantasy games on Game Pass.
I do remember having Final Fantasy 12 on there. I don't know how many other ones were on there, but I'm pretty sure all the 13 ones were on there at one point.
Yeah, they had 7, 8, 9, 10, and then they did 12, and then the 13 trilogy. I don't think they ever added Final Fantasy 15. I could be wrong. But then I know that like some started to get removed after they had been there for so long, and I didn't know if 10 had been removed as one of them.
That seems really weird with the battle system. I'm assuming you also get to disrupt their stuff too when they're trying to cast a spell.
Yes.
I had to assume. But that seems really weird that's not a mode you can turn off. Because I know in like Final Fantasy 7 specifically, and I'm pretty sure Final Fantasy 9 also, like you can adjust how the ATB works, whereas like it pauses while like it waits for you to like actually make a selection and then chooses. It doesn't disrupt the enemy attacking you, doesn't disrupt your character doing things anyway. But I would be interested if that's an actual thing that it actually lets you do. And I mean, I'm sure you've probably looked for it. It just seems odd that they wouldn't let you turn that off if it was frustrating. So
yeah. So to clarify that part, yes, they do have what they call the ATB wait system. But the problem with it, in my opinion, is you have to select, like you have to click into a menu or into a section for it to actually wait. So like if it charges and then you're like, okay, let's say I have my mage, right? So I'm going to click magic. Once you finally click into magic, then it pauses everything. And it's like, okay, now you can decide what spell do you want to use and how you want to use it. But as soon as you hit circle and it goes back to the standard attack menu, it just starts going again. And that's the part that, like I said, it's like, if you have multiple enemies that you're attacking and they all decide to attack the same one at the same, in succession, like I said, it's like it basically disrupts you from casting a spell into for a long time. Because I've lost matches from that happening, of it just being like they keep attacking the same character and I'm like, I need this spell to go off to heal myself or do something, and I can't. So
yeah, that's a bummer.
Yeah, but that's literally what's going on with Final Fantasy X-2. But let's get into the podcast because we've been talking about what we've been playing lately for quite a bit. And we're talking, as you can see from the thumbnail and, of course, the title here, all things Nintendo Direct basically today. We had the Nintendo Direct that happened earlier this week and also some news about Legend of Zelda that came following that Direct as well, which, by the way, there was some news on the Legend of Zelda in the Direct, but we're talking about a little bit afterwards as well. That's all coming up here on the One More Game podcast. So let's get right into things, talking about the Nintendo Direct and everything that was shown off at that Nintendo Direct. And Pete, we're going to start off like we normally do with these Nintendo Directs, which is, or any of these showcases, which is, give me your quick thoughts on the situation as well as where you would grade it. How much, what kind of score would you give it?
My quick thoughts are, man, I think Nintendo Directs are just the best form of the way that they did, like, all of these, like, PlayStations or whatever, PlayStations and Xboxes and whatever. I think Nintendo does it the best. It seems like the most clean, the most polished. A lot of the other ones sometimes, which is intentional in a lot of other cases, and honestly, they're the better ones, but they just, like, show a bunch of trailers and, like, maybe they're tied together, maybe they're not, kind of like our podcast, when you do the rundowns. But I don't know. There's something about Nintendo Directs that just, like, maybe it's the person on cam, maybe it's the dude on camera. I forgot his name because I'm terrible.
Yeah, give me a second. I'll look it up.
But for whatever reason, just whenever I watch a Nintendo Direct, I'm like, this feels a lot more clean and polished and better looking, and I don't know, it just resonates with me more than it does most other ones. Maybe it's the what do you call it, just the young kid in me. It's like, ooh, getting all giddy again, like that kid in the old Nintendo 64 commercials that, like, loses his shit when he opens it. I remember that commercial is a meme worthy in itself. They also jam-packed a lot. That's my second thought. There was, like, I wrote down all the games because I wanted to make sure, I wanted to have all the games listed. And also I could have their dates along if they announced a date with it, which they did for most of them. I think there was a few that was just like a generic one, but most of them got a date. And there's 35 different items, and that's not including the Game Boy and Game Boy Advance games, which is like another 15 or something like that. They packed a lot into the 45 minutes for this one. It was really impressive, culminating, of course, and you already mentioned, we're going to talk about it specifically, but in the new trailer for Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom. And overall, I give it an A-. It was really good. It was really snappy. I guess the only thing I would be a gripe is when I was trying to write stuff down. It felt like some of the things when they were just, like, kind of like bombarding you with stuff were happening so fast. It was kind of hard to keep up a little bit. But I mean, like, you know, you could always pause and go back and stuff like that. So it's not even like that big of an issue, especially if you're not watching it live. And yeah, I mean, I think it was really great. It's one of the better ones we've seen. And there was a lot of things to like about this. If you're a Nintendo fan, it's going to be a good year. It looks like, honestly, really good year.
Yeah, and so it's if it's who I think it was Shinya Takahashi
Yes.
is the presenter. And so yeah, I would say, going off of what your thoughts are, I thought it was fairly good. I wouldn't give it an A- like you said. I give it more of like a B plus personally, and that's just because, you know, when it comes to the things that were announced there, I thought that they were good. I thought that they were a nice blend of titles hitting various people and their like what they may like. You know, this wasn't like a super heavy, like, if you like Zelda, it appeals to the Zelda crowd and not really anyone else. Or like if you're a Splatoon fan, it really only hits the Splatoon people and it doesn't really hit anyone else. And that sometimes is the case that happens in some of the other showcases, not Nintendo related, but as you were talking about with like Xbox or PlayStation, you know, sometimes like the showcase that they have kind of really targets one group and is like, all right, you're either really, if you're part of this group, you're really going to like this showcase. If you're not part of this group, you might not really like it unless you are a general, video game fan where you can appreciate the showcase, even if it's not appealed to you. And so, of course, just like they always do, they do a great job kind of blending that. My biggest problem that I had is with this is kind of hypocritical of me, but it's like not everything in this showcase directly appealed to me. And there were things that I also was, well, basically like I felt like they gave too much time to some things that didn't necessarily need to have as much time to it. The one that stands out the most that they're gonna bring up is Fashion Dreamer, which is a upcoming fashion multiplayer game that's coming from Exceed. And let me be clear, I thought the game looked good. Like, it wasn't like I was sitting like, oh, this is a really bad game, but it was definitely, this is a game that appeals to more of a niche type of group that they spent a good amount of time on, and that's great for that game and Exceed, and I love Exceed games, so I'm happy that they got that kind of that focal point. But I felt that there were some other games that could have gotten a little bit more time to it in place of Fashion Dreamer that maybe would have made the direct sing a little bit in the early parts of it, because it came out really strong with Pikmin 4 and then followed up with Xenoblade Chronicles 3 DLC, which depends on if you're a Xenoblade fan. But then it felt like for me there was this lull for a little while, where I just
de Amigo, Dead Cells. It was Castlevania related, but yeah, Tron Identity, which was kind of like a visual novel kind of game, I believe. So yeah, I guess once they came out strong, there was a couple of comparing it to a wrestling pay-per-view like I like to do. There was kind of a couple of dud matches in there that for probably a general portion of the audience, probably the biggest one out of that one was I would guess the Castlevania one, just because it's a bit Tron, maybe a little bit. Deca Police was kind of randomly thrown in there too, in that group. There was a couple Ghost Trick, if you're a fan of that, because I recognize some of the characters, but I never actually dove into what the characters were. It's another one that's kind of then you got the Bayonetta Origins, but that was probably a good 5 to 7 minutes after, at least, of when Pikmin dropped, and that's probably the next big name, and that's a good 6-7 video games that are covered in between those.
Yeah, and so that was the thing, is this there was this, it came out strong, and then it was kind of a lull for a little while before it finally started to pick up steam again. And so I think that's kind of why, like I said, I'd give it a B plus, because I still thought it was great, and I still thought that a lot of the titles were awesome, but it just felt it wasn't it. As you talk about using your wrestling pay-per-view analogy, right? What you want is, you definitely want some peaks and some valleys in a sense, but you want the valley to not be so low, right? You want it to kind of be kind of this ebb and flow type of thing. And that's kind of where, I felt like there was a little bit of a misdirect with this Nintendo Direct. But part of it, I also think, was the excitement or the hype heading into it, especially for myself, listening to all the podcasts that I listened to, the articles that I was reading, and just people doing, obviously, speculating and just doing their dream Nintendo Direct. I didn't get into it thinking that it was going to be the case that some of these people felt, but I think I did go into it thinking, hey, I'm expecting a really good Nintendo Direct to kick off the year, because we are, again, for those that don't know, the Nintendo Switch released March 3rd, 2017. So we are about to hit 6 years of the Nintendo Switch. And with most gaming generations, this would be the year that a new console would be announced and getting ready to release. And so I'm not saying that I think that the new console needs to be released or anything like that. I know some people really want a new Nintendo Switch. They say that this one's old, showing its age, and I disagree because of what Nintendo presents. But we already know Nintendo is kind of at this moment still saying, we're not putting out a new one. And why would they? I mean, they literally just became the third most selling console in console history. But it's one of those
Classic
things of like, I want
PS3.
it to be like, all right, what is year 6 bringing for Nintendo? And at the moment, it is like Zelda, and there's not much really coming after Zelda in May. And that's kind of the thing of like, all right, well, you have Pikmin, 2, or Pikmin 4. I mean, also is what I would meant when I say Pikmin 2. But it's like, what does the rest of the year look like? And to bring up a great point is like the Pokemon movies, not Pokemon, the Mario movie is releasing this year, and we don't have a new Mario coming out. Yeah. And so like this would have been a good time, in my opinion, to kind of even just at least be like, look, Mario fans, you got a new Mario coming this year. Just wait a little bit for more information or whatever that nature. So that was kind of one of the things that I thought I was missing. But Pete, let's kind of go break down some of these points and some of these things. So we talked about, of course, that the show kicked off with the Pikmin 4, showing that that's going to release on July 21st. And I've never been a Pikmin fan, but the Pikmin game looked pretty good to me.
Yeah, it did. Full disclosure, I've never played a Pikmin ever, never picked it up. Came out first, I think, with GameCube. It was like a launch title with that game system, if not like really early on. And it's always looked really cool. It's just never been a thing that I never had a GameCube, so I never really got access to it. And I think that Switch actually, honestly, is like my first Nintendo system I've owned since like a 64 with my parents' house. Like way late in that, I think, way late in the N64's life cycle. So I mean, that would have been like, I think it was almost PS3 era by the time. It was at least PS2.
Yeah.
So you had that one. Then you had the Xenoblade DLC, Volume 3, which is coming out February 15th. 4 is coming out later in 2023. They didn't give an exact date for that, but I would assume that's probably either late summer or closer to the holiday season for that one. And that was also pretty big too. I mean, Xenoblade 3 has been a really popular game with a lot of people. It was nominated for Game of the Year at the Game Awards with Jeff Keighley. So, I mean, that one's pretty popular too. And then, like you said, we kind of went into a lull. Rhythm game with Samba de Amigo, the Fashion Dreamer game. Dead Cells, which is a roguelike game. It had like some Castlevania DLC, some random stuff like that, which is pretty interesting. Some of it was pretty interesting, but like you said, wasn't really attention grabbing. So kind of like a little bit of a dip in that one.
Yeah, and with the Castlevania one, we did know about that one already. Of course, I don't think we had a release date at the time, but that game, the crossover, did get revealed at the Game Awards. Of course, for those that watch all these things. Now, that's not to. I want to clarify with those kind of things. That's not to say that it shouldn't have been here, because not everyone watches the Game Awards. Not everyone is always watching some of these other showcases and stuff. So this is like a good reason to bring it back up. And again, we have a release date in this situation, but it's one of those, for like a person like myself, it was like, okay, well, I already know about it. Cool, I got a March 6th date, but similar to you, it's like it's not a new Castlevania. It's kind of a crossover that we've already seen. And then, of course, you went into Tron Identity, which was the narrative adventure game from Bithell Games. That was another one that I think did get revealed at the Game Awards, if I remember correctly, was its first showing. But of course, we're seeing that it's arriving first now on Switch, and it's going to be coming out in April, which is great. Now, the next one, of course, Ghost Trick Phantom Detective. I was not a Nintendo DS person. I didn't have the Nintendo 3DS until Pokemon X and Y came out, and I got hooked onto it by my roommates. But like, I never played Ghost Trick Phantom Detective. I'm sure that one, because it's a remaster, sings to highly to the fans that love that game. I mean, this article, which I didn't make mention before, but we're looking at some of the breakdowns here from Destructoid, written by Eric Van Allen, and they put in here it's a cult classic, and I've heard of it. I know that this is a game that sings to some people, as I said, but like, it didn't stick out to me, and what they showed in the gameplay didn't stick out to me that like this is a game that I'm going to want to pick up and play. Honestly, I thought that the trailer for this was not very strong, and it was probably one of those things where maybe they were just buying into, if you like the game, you're gonna like it. But like, for someone who's never played the game before, the trailer didn't really pull me in to be like, oh, I want to play this. But I will say the trailer that made me really want to play it was the Deca Police, the upcoming RPG from Level 5. I like Level 5 games. I love RPGs, as you know. And Deca Police looked fantastic to me. So this like was one of those where like I finally swung up in my favor and I was like, all right, this looks cool. And this was like where for me, I wish Deca Police was a little bit earlier so there wasn't such a long lull in between the time frames.
Yeah, Deca Police is really interesting. Going back to the Ghost Trick Phantom Detective, this is more of an aside with the explaining things. One of the things that's always interesting when you're talking with fans of a genre is when they change things up. Usually it's involving like books into movies or something like that, or video games into another medium, something like that. And people are like, oh, they changed it so it's different, so now it's bad. And it's like, well, one, that's not true. And two, they know they're getting your money already. They want to get new money. So kind of like going back to you, how that trailer didn't entice you to actually try it out or play it. Looked more like a nostalgia grab, which is the word I was trying to think of earlier. Nostalgia grab. Usually you want to entice new money into getting it, because just having that title on there, the fans of that are probably like, oh, it's back, I'm gonna buy it. But you want the people who have never played it before, that maybe were not even really interested in buying it, to be like, oh, hey, this seems kind of cool, let me try it out. So that is kind of like a thing where it's like they got to be a little more on the up and up in that one, and maybe they just didn't feel it at the time. So going after Deca Police, which was a very interesting title to look at. We had Bayonetta Origins, which I believe is like a spin-off, is what they said it was.
It's a prequel. It's a prequel to all the Bayonetta games.
Which was interesting because you play as the I don't know the character's name because I haven't played actually Bayonetta.
I think it's Bayonetta.
I thought they called her something different.
I'm gonna look. But, you keep talking.
But anyway, so you play as Bayonetta, and then you have like some like creature that kind of follows you around. But interestingly enough, you play as kind of like a Bayonetta, but she doesn't really have like any attack powers. She's more of a support character. So interesting in that regard, kind of like we were talking about with Persona, where you kind of have to work together with like the computer in the gameplay. In this one, you also have to do it. You like stun or hold down the enemies while your little critter dude like actually fights and beats them up. So that was interesting. Splatoon 3 paid access, paid expansion pass coming out in spring. Inkopolis, I believe it's called. They got another one coming out later this year as well. So that was dropped. Splatoon fans, just feasting, just having a blast over there.
If you've never played Splatoon is a ton of fun. I haven't played Splatoon 3. Splatoon is a ton of fun. Yeah,
it looks like a ton of fun. I have not played it, but
I also want to say, Pete, you and I are big dum-dums because the main character's name is Cereza, which happens to be in the title there. Bayonetta Origins, Cereza and the Lost Demon. So
I just wrote down Bayonetta Origins. I write down the full title, so that's on me. Like I said, I didn't think they were calling her Bayonetta in the trailer, but
yeah.
So the next one was Illusion
we're
Island.
some dum-dums.
Yeah, I mean, I always admit that. Next game was Illusion Island, which is kind of an illusion because I'm actually drawing a blank on this one.
Illusion Island is the Disney platformer.
It's the Mickey one. Yeah. I was actually really pumped for this one. Yeah. We already knew about it. I don't know if we knew we had a launch date for this one. This one is coming out July 28th. Yeah, I didn't think we did, so I was pretty pumped about that one. Thank God you're here to catch me up on that one, because I was actually excited about that one, and somehow I forgot. And then the next game was Fire Emblem Engage, the new Fire Emblem that came out recently. It's an expansion pass, or Wave 2, which came out later in the day from the Nintendo Direct. So now you can go and actually acquire that stuff as well. And that's they think they got another wave coming out. They said later this year they're working on another one. Yeah. So I mean, Fire Emblem fans, you're having your ball as well.
Yeah, they have Wave 3 and Wave 4 coming this year, and Wave 4 is going to be the Fel Xenologue, which will add more story content to play through. And the thing that was nice for the Fire Emblem Engage fans, Wave 2 dropped the same day of the Nintendo Direct, which was great. I mean, who doesn't love some shadow drops? So, that's fun. We're going to talk about one. We're going to talk about one coming up a little bit later, of course, here in the showcase. And for me, someone who hasn't picked up Fire Emblem Engage but really wants to, because I really do enjoy Fire Emblem, this made me even more so want to pick it up, because I was like, cool, I have the game plus this story content if I decided to pick up the DLC that I also can pick up right away and have some more of the characters in here. And then Don't Nod, the makers of the original the Life is Strange and Life is Strange Before the Storm. No, not Life is Strange Before the Storm. The original Life is Strange and maybe Life is Strange 2. I'm not 100% sure on that one, but they showed off their newest game, Harmony: The Fall of Reverie, which looked really great. It looked very Hades-like, with the interacting of some of these, like, almost like mythological characters. I remember like one is like named Chaos. I can't remember what the other ones were named, but that looked pretty good. It has, of course, the branching narrative, just like Don't Nod is known for, and that's coming out in June. Of course, Octopath Traveler 2 came out right after that with a demo that dropped again same day. That game launches later this month. That one. Yeah, that game launches later this month, and the progress for the demo also carries over. That demo is available for PlayStation and Switch. I don't recall if it's out for PC as well, but
I think it was coming out later, it said, or something like that. Maybe I was misreading that.
Anyway, I think you're right. It was the case, but it was for PlayStation and Switch. And like I said, I don't remember when the demo for that one is. And then, of course, another one that's like goes back to the nostalgia factor. We Love Katamari Reroll plus Royal Reverie. Katamari is a game that I have always wanted to play, simply because of how the people who've played it absolutely love the game. It looks ridiculous. It looks like something that honestly I would normally not play, but I know the fan reception around it is so like over the top that I'm like, I gotta try this out. So the fact that it is coming out, and it's coming out June 2nd, made me like, all right, this may be something that I dip my toe into.
Well, Jeremy, you get your chance, because it has a game trial starting February 20th at 10 a.m. Pacific time, and lasts for about a week till the 26th.
Yeah,
midnight the 27th. So there you go. I mean, you got a chance to try it out if you really want to.
Yeah. Then, of course, right after that was the game, probably the indie RPG that I am most looking forward to this year. We got a look at Sea of Stars, and of course got a demo, and we got a release date for Sea of Stars, which is August 29th. As some might remember, this game got delayed out of last year. It was supposed to release in December, and I was really looking forward to it. So now that we have a release date is awesome, and the demo, and I haven't tried the demo just yet, but I have just seen the reception online. People are absolutely loving the demo, which makes me really excited for it.
2 demos for me to play now. Sweet.
Yeah. After that, we have basically I'm drawing a blank. What's the name of the game that you really liked?
Strikers, and it was it's got a very major Windjammers vibe. I was
Windjammers, really yes.
Oh, you were talking about what it was like. Yeah, okay. It wasn't just me then. Yeah, I had a real major Windjammers vibe. I was really digging what I was seeing from that game.
Oh, for sure. And the fact that it's like a 3v3 that you can team up with players, and like the fact that, showing the trailer of like you can like put up a wall that makes the disc bounce off the wall, and all that jazz. Like I was really looking forward to this. And so of course it's coming out on April 27th, and it's on multiple systems. I don't remember all of them, but it's supposed to have, if I did read it correctly, I think it's supposed to have crossplay as well, which is awesome. And I think, again, something I'm not 100% sure on, but some of the original team members of Riot Games, who made League of Legends, is working on this game. So I think like that entices me as well to try this out.
Yeah, it seems really cool. I was really digging the vibes. We're going to kind of blaze through these next few. We're running a little heavy on time. If you're a fan of Etrian Odyssey, the trilogy is getting a remaster. Watching the trailer itself, the trailer reminds me of a game my dad used to play on the Sega Genesis called Dungeons and Dragons: Warriors of the Eternal Sun. The way that you're like going through some of the dungeons and the way the gameplay kind of looked. That releases on June 1st. Jeff Grubb can rest easy from last week, where he was freaking out about whether people were going to come out of the torches and pitchforks about the Nintendo Direct. Advance Wars Boot Camp 1 and 2 finally got a release date at April 21st. Kirby's Return to Dreamland Deluxe Magalore, which is an epilogue to Kirby's Return to Dreamland, I believe. That releases on February 24th. The demo's out now, so it's another demo you can get your hands on. And then really quickly, they added a bunch. They've announced they're going to add a bunch of Game Boy and Game Boy Advance games to the Switch. If you want the original Game Boy games, a couple of which are Tetris, Legend of Zelda, Link's Awakening DX, Metroid 2, Return of Samus, and Wario Land 3, among others. You can get the Nintendo Online eShop membership. It runs you $19.99 a year. They also, like I said, they had some Game Boy Advance games, and you can get both of those. But for the Game Boy Advance game specifically, you need to get the expansion pack, which is $49.99 a year. Which actually, since it seems like they're adding some more, some of the ones that look like they're adding in like some Fire Emblem game for the Advance, Golden Sun. It looked like there's a lot of stuff that is going to be well worth the $50 a year to be able to have access to all these. If you want to get a nostalgia kick from these Game Boy and Game Boy Advance games, some of the Advance games I'll mention. Super Mario Advance 4, Super Mario Brothers 3, Mario Kart Super Circuit, Legend of Zelda, the Minish Cap. There's a few other ones on there too. Yeah. And then we got the Shadow Drop. You teased earlier.
Yeah.
So go ahead.
The Metroid Prime remaster. So this came out, of course, on the Nintendo GameCube. Just like you said, I didn't have a Nintendo GameCube, so I didn't play this, but I know people who did love this game. And it shadow dropped. It came out the same day as it dropped. Physical release will come out a little bit later on February 22nd. But similarly, I haven't tried this just yet, but I have just seen people just singing the praises of how this looks, which is great to see that happen. Then, of course, we had the Danganronpa creators from Spike Chunsoft and creator Katsutaka Kodaka brought out, I don't know the new, or I didn't realize the full name of this, Master Detective Archives Raincode. This is the game that I've been really looking forward to because I love Danganronpa, and we got a release date June 30th, so I am super excited for this game. Then we got Baten Kaitos 1 and 2 HD remasters from Bandai Namco. That's coming out this summer. I'm excited for this because I have always wanted to play this, but again, did not have a GameCube, so I now finally have a chance to play this, and I'm looking forward to it. But I also want to say in that same sentence, I have a big gripe with this game because why the hell did this get the green lit for production when Xenosaga is not? I want a Xenosaga HD collection that I've been claiming here on the podcast for many, many, many times. Give me that collection now, damn it, Bandai Namco. Then we got a new Fantasy Life game that's coming out. Fantasy Life: The Girl Who Steals Time. Again, another one from Level 5. This one looked really cool, and I know a lot of people who played the first Fantasy Life that really liked it. So I'm actually kind of looking forward to this. Then we had another Level 5 game coming out. We got a tease for a new Professor Layton game. Professor Layton and the New World of Steam is in development, which is pretty great. We got a new wave of DLC for Mario Kart 8 Deluxe. This is actually coming with the first new character and coming with a new track, which is pretty awesome. Some of the other ones were just, of course, they were new tracks, but they were tracks from older games. This one is the first new track that's being introduced here in the wave. Then we got Blanc, which...
Sorry to interrupt really quick. Just for that DLC, if you have the expansion pack, you just get that. If you already have the Nintendo eShop, you just get that DLC, DLC Wave 4. You can also just buy it alone if you didn't want to do that. But if you have the expansion pack, then you get the Game Boy and Game Boy Advance games, which actually already dropped. So
yeah, exactly. The Game Boy and Game Boy Advance dropped the day of the trailer. Another shadow drop that happened. Then we got a big montage time with games that got a bunch of different releases. We'll actually have one of them coming up in the upcoming releases. But Blanc, which is adorable. It's like two deer, one white, one black. They kind of got to work together to traverse this land. Looked absolutely adorable. And then, of course, we got to look at the Battle Network Legacy Collection, which is the Mega Man Collection, which looks really awesome, coming up. And then we, of course, got our big trailer for The Legend of Zelda, Tears of the Kingdom. That's, of course, coming out May 12th. And with one of the things that we're going to talk about is, of course, the price tag. It is not coming out for $60 anymore. That got delisted. It is now $70. So, Pete, first, what did you think about the trailer? And then on top of it, what do you think about the price increase?
The trailer was awesome. I did chuckle a little bit because the one point Zelda says, "I don't know if you can stop him," and it's just like, bro, it's Zelda, it's Link, and it's Ganon, and the good guys went, "Come on now." It's like you know how this ends. What are we talking about here? But maybe they surprise us. Maybe they'll Link has to have somebody else come in and save and you protect him or something like that. Maybe they do a little twist. It was just fun. I don't know. It was just funny. It's like the good guys win. Come on, we know where this is headed. But the trailer itself was awesome. Fantastic. Really gave me the itch to want to buy it. I didn't actually play the original one. I played the spin-off knockoff of Genshin Impact, which a lot of people jokingly say is a remake of the Zelda game. They just took everything and just made new characters, which is kind of funny. So I guess in an indirect way, I played the other one, if you want to say that. But it really looked interesting. I don't know if I'll end up buying it, but damn, this game, the trailer really got me close. The $70 does suck. We can have this. I guess we can have this conversation right now. $70 does suck, but we've talked about it on here. Video games have been $60 for over a decade now, and it's probably pretty close to time that they got to jump up a little bit. It's not great, obviously, especially with we're what do you call it?
Recession.
Kind of, yeah, we're on the forefront of a recession, and also things are. The prices are increasing everywhere and stuff like that. It doesn't feel good. But the way these games are made now, some of them they gotta make a little bit more money on. You could argue maybe Nintendo doesn't need it as much because they actually tend to make money on their consoles, whereas other companies usually lose money when they sell a console. They make that money up by increasing the price or by the price of the games that they sell, and the extra stuff like controllers and whatnot. But I mean the PlayStation or Sony's already done this since 2020. Xbox announced that they're going to start doing it. I think they might have already started doing it with at least some of the Xbox major games. So I mean, I don't know what to tell you. It's going to happen. It was going to happen eventually. It sucks that it's happening right now. At least they kind of sort of waited for the pandemic to mostly be over. That was kind of the one gripe with Sony, even though I understand that the pandemic probably was part of the reason why they weren't making as much money. But also it's people aren't also making any money. So at that point, some people were either laid off or they couldn't go to work. So at least Nintendo seemed like they waited as long as they can. They are saying that this isn't just a standard thing. They're not just everything's going to be $70 for at least a little while. But a lot of the stuff that I'm sure went into making this new Legend of Zelda game probably warrants it to be $70, even if you don't like hearing people say that.
Yeah, as you said, they did come out, a Nintendo president did come out and said that basically game prices are going to be on a case-by-case basis when it comes to what games may be $60, what games may be $70, what games might even be cheaper than that. And I'm going to be honest with you, which is I think it's fine and I think it's fair. Personally, yeah. I know that some people are very upset with the fact that it is again, we're entering year 6 of the Nintendo Switch. The Nintendo Switch came out technically as a less powerful system than its counterparts when it comes to the PlayStation 4 and the Xbox One that were at the time. And now it's even more behind the fence, of course, when it comes to the PS5 and the Xbox Series. But I guess how I always look at it is, and I've said this, I think, before here on the podcast. If I haven't, I know I've said it before in our conversations off the podcast, Pete, which is, what is the experience to you? And that's the biggest thing. When it comes to playing a video game, what is that experience to you? And for me, while yes, I want to save money, and gaming is an expensive hobby, especially as you buy a bunch of games and you keep, going through and you don't finish some of the games, it can be very expensive. But if I thoroughly enjoyed the game that I played all the way through, in my mind, I honestly don't really care how much I spent, because the experience is what mattered most. We go to concerts and we spend a lot of money. We go on vacations and we spend a lot of money. At least with a video game, if you spend, for instance, in this one, $70 on The Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom, you can always return to that and play it at a later time. Like, some people are still playing The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild to this day because they just love it that much. And it's one of those things of, as long as you went through that experience and you were like, wow, that was awesome, I think at the end of the day, you may still go like, but it sucked that I had to spend $70. But I don't think it'd be at the forefront of your mind being like, man, that sucked that I spent $70, but it was kind of cool, right? That's kind of the thing. And making games is really hard and really difficult. And there's so many people on the staff making these games. It's so many hours. It takes years to put together. We've talked about it before. You got to make your money back somehow. You spent so much time to make this. You got to have it happen. And with the reception of Breath of the Wild and how much people loved it, you got to imagine Tears of the Kingdom is going to be similar. And again, if you get that experience of, this is one of my favorite games of all time or best games of the year, are you really going to be upset that you spent $10 extra to play this game? Now, if it jumped from $60 to like $120, I think that starts a whole different conversation. But a $10 difference, I don't think is too bad. And that's kind of where for me, it's like, it is what it is, basically.
Yeah, I will ask, because I think you mentioned it, but I don't know. I want to clarify. Was it already listed for $60?
Yes.
At one point? That's the one thing that I would be like, kind of like, look, really? You could have just not listed it for them. But I guess if they're already taking pre-orders, they got to put something down. So that's kind of a bummer. But yeah, like you said, I mean, it costs a lot of money. It takes a lot of time. And takes a lot of resources, human resources. I mean, ideally, this extra money would mostly be going to the people making the game and not the people leading the company that don't really have much of a like actual direct impact, other than like maybe overarching decisions of the company to make the game. But we all know how that works.
Well, I will say in defense of that one real quick, because of course, the company itself has to make the money to pay the employees, but
they do.
If Nintendo did just get a release, it was not on our rundown, but Nintendo employees did just get a pay raise, even though profits and everything is down for Nintendo. And they came out and said, of course, that they felt that this would set them up better long term because it would retain staff and make staff happier to work on games. So could this be one of those things where they were like, we're doing this price increase because it'll help us with offsetting, the price increase that we're giving to our employees? Maybe, maybe not. Who knows? As you said, it could go to the pockets of some of the higher ups, but to their credit, they did just do that.
Yeah, I guess I was meaning the increase in overall, not necessarily Zelda. That was my bad. I should have been more specific. But yeah, I mean, like you said, like theoretically, even if it's not all the staff, like some of the staff that are like there all the time are like getting some kind of pay increase for some of this stuff. Mm-hmm. So like, even if it's not everybody, like the company's going to want to like have something to mitigate for that. So and like you said, it was bound to happen eventually, and we've been sitting at $60 for a while. And like to be honest, a lot of this stuff kind of goes on sale at random points for one, and for two, like if you have like a Game Pass or something that you're already paying, and a lot of the stuff is like, or like a Nintendo eShop, a lot of the stuff is released on there anyway, and you probably get a discount for having that regardless. And I mean, I guess this doesn't work if you buy it digitally, but if you buy physical copies, you can still not necessarily return those, but sell those at a discount and kind of get some of your money back. Whereas in a vacation or a concert or that kind of thing, you just that's a sunk cost. That cost is gone.
Yeah.
So if the experience was dog shit, you don't get that money back. That just happens. Whereas in this one, even if the experience is good, like you're like, hey, I want to invest into another game. Like you did it all the time. I don't know if you still do, but you did all. I remember when we let a room together, you did it a lot. You can put it towards a new game that you want to try after you're done with it. If you don't feel like you want to keep it, or you're like, hey, this was great, but I want to try something else now. So.
Yeah, and as you said, that is of course one of the factors that you can do. It is important to note, with the pre-order prices for the game, those were all physical that were pre-ordered at $60 on like Amazon, things of that nature. Nintendo itself had never listed the Tears of the Kingdom pre-order itself up for you to pre-order it digitally, and technically speaking, as with all of these companies, or at least Amazon, Best Buy, GameStop, the ones that I know, if you pre-ordered it at a lower price, despite the fact it increases, you still pay the lower price that you pre-ordered it for. So sense. Those that didn't wait and knew like whatever this game is, I'm gonna get it. They still got it for their $60. It's anyone else now that wants to pick it up that didn't pre-order it now has to pay that extra $10. And that's kind of one of those, the gambles you play when you do pre-orders or not pre-orders, type of thing. Yeah. So,
one last thing before we finish up. There's a special edition. I don't remember what they called it, but it's going to be $120. You get a bunch of little cool stuff with it. If you want it, I believe it was $120, I should say, that they also teased at the end of the Nintendo Direct. And that looked pretty cool too, especially in that. And I wouldn't be surprised if a lot of people that put money down probably put it towards that.
Oh, yeah. I mean, don't get me wrong. If you really love a certain series or a genre or things like that, I mean, you got to splurge every now and then for collector's editions like you see here behind me on my shelf.
Is adorable, by the way.
Thank you. This is a great Moogle right here. He even has some like little devil wings. Maybe one of these times I'll bring him up and show him off. But everyone, that's been, of course, the things with the Nintendo Direct. Let's get, even though we're over on time, let's get to the games that are releasing this week, because you might want to spend, instead of $70 on Legend of Zelda, you might want to buy something this week instead. And I'm going to tell you all about those things that come out. We're starting with Tuesday, February 14th. You have Blanc for Switch and PC. We did just talk about that here on the Nintendo Direct. You have Journey to the Savage Planet Employee of the Month Edition for PS5 and Xbox Series. Souls of Chronos for PS5, Switch, and PC. Tomb Raider Reloaded for iOS and Android. Wanted Dead for PS5, Xbox Series, PS4, Xbox One, and PC. Labyrinth of Galeria, The Moon Society for PS5, PS4, and Switch. Topeland Arcade Shoot 'em Up Collection Volume 1 for PC. That's going to include the games Outzone, Truxton, Twin Cobra, and Zero Wing. 10 dates for PS5, Xbox Series, PS4, Xbox One, Switch, and PC. Wednesday, February 15th, you have Pharaoh, A New Era for PC. Returnal for PC. Thursday, February 16th, you have Shadow Warrior 3 for PS5 and Xbox Series. Theater Rhythm Final Bar Line for PS4 and Switch. Wild West Dynasty for PC. Dreams in the Witch House for PC. And then Friday, February 17th, you have Gigantosaurus Dino Carts for PS5, Xbox Series, PS4, Xbox One, and Switch. Tales of Symphonia Remastered for PS4, Xbox One, and Switch. The Settlers New Allies for PC, and Wild Hearts for PS5, Xbox Series, and PC. Pete, any of these catching your attention?
No, because it's not on the list. Metroid Prime Remastered. Actually, there's a few. The Tales of Symphonia Remastered, which was actually shown on the right at the tail end of the Nintendo Direct, was something interesting. Theater Rhythm Final Bar Line, I'm going after that. Already going to throw down some money on that. I already know that. Journey to the Savage Planet Employee of the Month Edition, I'm not going to buy it, but the gameplay that I saw was kind of cute, kind of funny. So I enjoyed that. And I don't know if I'm going to recommend this game, but there is like a 4.5 minute She Works Hard for the Money trailer of Wanted Dead, which I actually thoroughly enjoyed.
I don't think I saw that trailer.
If you're interested in it, I highly recommend it. It was a really enjoyable trailer to me. So
I don't think I've seen that trailer. I'm gonna
it
have to
was
go
like an
look that up now.
anime music. It was like an anime music video that was made specifically for that. And then I saw the next trailer. I'm like, this doesn't look anything like the trailer I just saw. But so that's why I don't know if I'll recommend it or I'll actually play it. But the She Works Hard for the Money was fun and enjoyable.
Yeah, so I'm going to just say quickly for Journey to the Savage Planet, I don't know if it's on PS Plus Extra, but it was the original Journey to the Savage Planet was a PS Plus game at least. You might, if you have PS Plus and you've had it for a while and you're claiming the games, you may have that in your collection. So go check that out. For myself, I'm gonna just make a couple of quick mentions. So Wanted Dead, as you said, looked pretty awesome to me. So I like the look of that. Souls of Chronos was an interesting one to me. I kind of curious on it. I wish there was a demo for me to check it out, but there was not. But it looked cool. Labyrinth of Galeria is a game that it's a new one, but they have the original one. I think it's called Labyrinth of Coven. It's a first-person dungeon crawler. I like those kind of games, so like that one has caught my attention on there. Returnal, obviously, everyone go play that game because that game is awesome. Theater Rhythm Final Bar Line, as you said, looks great. And Tales of Symphonia Remastered, I'm thinking of picking up. And then the last one I've been really considering picking up, which is Wild Hearts. That is the basically Monster Hunter game coming from EA, developed by Omega Force, who makes the Dynasty Warriors games, and it looks really awesome. It has crossplay, so if you have it on PS5, you can play with your Xbox and PC friends, and vice versa on the other ones. And I've been really having that itch to try it and play it. I don't know if I will, but it is a strong consideration from me.
That sounds like a lot of good games. And then all the other stuff that was shadow dropped on Nintendo Direct too. So you got all that. Yeah, there's a lot of games that released this week that were not released last week.
Yeah, you have a ton of things to go play. Go play those things, guys. Everybody,
fun, but not before watching the Super Bowl.
But not before watching the Super Bowl. Maybe you play them while you watch the Super Bowl. Anyway, everybody, that is all that we have here at the One More Game podcast. Pete, is there anything you want to leave our listeners with before we send them off into the Super Bowl and the rest of the work week?
Sorry, went a little long, but it's a Super Bowl extravaganza episode, so I think you'll forgive us.
I think you'll forgive us, especially when we drop such spicy content around all these shadow drops and game releases. You got tons to listen to. So
anime music videos, just
she works hard for the money. All right, everybody. Thank you so much for tuning in here to the One More Game podcast. I've been one of your co-hosts, Jeremy Culver, aka Darcy. This has been the California Thirst Quencher, Pete Legia, and we really enjoy bringing this to you. And so, as always, everybody, stay hydrated, stay healthy, stay safe, and keep on gaming. We'll see you guys on the next episode.